Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Authentic Info Podcast. I am your host, Admar Sandel. In this episode, we talk about Willie MADISHA. Willie MADISHA was recently fired from COPE over the weekend. But it seems like he doesn't agree with the decision of COPE top leaders. Now, we will remember that even in 2022, we have had something like this, where some of the top leaders of COPE were fired. But it seems like it's an internal factional battle because it is only those who do not support Muswali Kota to come back to lead, who happen to be silenced in such expulsions. Now, Willie MADISHA over the weekend was fired together with the party secretariat for elections, Mzandile Hleko. But we are here to focus on Willie MADISHA. We know Willie MADISHA as one of the founding fathers of COPE. We know Willie MADISHA as the vice president and member of parliament. He is one of the only two people who occupy seats in parliament for COPE. It's only him and Muswali Kota, the president. But it seems like they don't find each other. They don't agree in terms of leadership or leading the party or steering the party to the right direction. Every time when Muswali Kota speaks in media platforms, you will grab or you will hear or get some facts that he really does not support the leadership of Muswali Kota. Every time when MADISHA speaks, he speaks very negative about Muswali Kota, but he doesn't want to agree that there are internal factional battles. But we can see that there are those who support MADISHA and there are those who support Muswali Kota. But another thing is that it seems as if Muswali Kota doesn't want to step down. But we have seen, in terms of reports, they say back then COPE used to have at least more than 210 councillors, but now they have less than 20 councillors nationally, which is bad. They only have 2 seats in parliament, and I think back then they had more than 40 seats in parliament. But today, we have seen its top leaders being expelled, being silenced, and they claim that all these meetings that lead to some top members being expelled, they don't constitute Congress or council, something like that. But you will be surprised if a leader like Muswali Kota doesn't want to step down, even though COPE has a lot of internal fights. We've seen not so long, there was a fight, I think they had to address or something, but they ended up fighting amongst themselves there at the table in front. So it was an embarrassment. It means that even if there is sabotage, it's something which now cannot be controlled. Because even though Willie MADISHA is fired, he still says that he is the president, the deputy president or vice president of COPE. And he says that he's still going to report to parliament because if he is fired in a political party, there's no way that he can continue in parliament. Who will he be representing? The people. But the people put him there through the party, through the ticket of COPE. So if COPE takes him down, it means he must also lose that position in parliament. Now, they are going into Congress, but I've heard some of its leaders saying that there is no way that they can go into Congress, or because even the provincial ones were not held. Even if they were held, they were not successful. So it means that under this leadership, Muswali Kota it's not supporting the idea of other comrades who thinks that he is very old. They even mentioned his health, that health-wise is not good. And they said, they had a meeting in his home to advise him to step down for the benefit of the party. And it seems as if he agreed in that meeting, even promised comrades that he's going to pack all his belongings in Cape Town and come back to rest. But it seems like if there are 2 options, maybe he doesn't want to see Willie MADISHA leading COPE, or maybe he wants someone who is in his support to take that position, and we don't know this person. But Cope came strong in the 2009 elections. But since then, we've seen the people like Bazimash Law leaving the party. Most of those old comrades from the ANC who started with COPE, who founded COPE after the resignation of Thabo Mbeki, most of them are no longer there. It seems like COPE is no longer serving its purpose. It seems like it's the beginning of the end. But when you listen to these comrades of COPE who are left, who are still there, when you hear them speak, you will hear them saying that they still hope, because everything that the opposition parties are saying is what COPE has already put on the table, which means, according to them, they say it means that COPE is still relevant. But when you see the media briefings of COPE, it seems like they don't even have money. They are not appearing in most of universities. They are not contesting. We don't see them accessing deep rural villages like they did back, 10 years ago. So one will be surprised if a person like its leader, Muswali Kota, doesn't want to be, doesn't want to afford others an opportunity to lead. Because they say after agreeing that he's going to pack his bags in Cape Town, they later received information that no, it's not doing that. It's not stepping down, which means these factions that led into physical fights will still continue. If there are people within the party who are expelled but still call themselves according to their positions, even though they are expelled, then it means now there's a war to fight within the party. The party is divided into two. And it means that there are those who support these guys. There are those who want to see Madisha given a chance to lead COPE. Because most of the political analysts and journalists tell him straight that you do not listen to the president of the party and you address the party as its president. So we don't know who is greedy here, but we cannot talk about greed and say the deputy president is greedy. Meanwhile, he's not the one in charge. We know that the deputy president is not even a shadow when it comes to leadership. We only see the president and the secretary of the party shining. So in this case, we've even seen Dennis Blom being shattered, which means these are some of the people who are of the view that Muswali Kota must step down. But we know that Muswali Kota doesn't support democracy. And the comrades at COPE are always saying that they support democracy, they want change within COPE, and they want COPE to be the only political party that will bring change in South Africa. But the problem now is that Muswali Kota does not want to give anyone a chance to lead. We have seen this fight before with Mbazi Mashlowa, and he left the party. Back then, I think it was 10 years ago. But they still mention his name even today, which means he had an impact, and had they afforded him an opportunity to lead COPE, maybe COPE should have been somewhere. But it seems as if there's no room for that. The president is not ready. He better see this party going down, declining. And I think it will be worse, because I don't think COPE will make it in 2024 if it is still led by Muswali Kota. Those are my views. I don't think that Muswali Kota can bring up back the vibrance in COPE. I am of the view that leaders like him, you cannot be leading a party that is declining for more than 10 years and you still want to continue. No. You must give others a chance to lead and to lead you. You can advise, but it seems like he's not giving that space at COPE. Maybe COPE now, it's his own spaza shop. But can we trust the likes of Willie Madisha? That's another question. Because he is accused of all sorts of irregularities and weak leadership qualities, lacking credibility. So if a person like him, who is accused of misusing the party funds, I don't know if even if they have money, but he's accused of such. He's accused of undermining the president of COPE. He's accused of undermining the constitution of the party. Is the party safe if it could be him who is leading it? Will COPE be safe? That's the question. Does he love COPE that much, in such a way that he decides to embarrass its president? Even in when you listen to him when he's speaking in these media houses, when journalists ask him questions in his position when it comes to the leadership, including himself, he will say that he is the only one who stands for the right things, and he will accuse Muswali Kota of being greedy. But in turn, when they give reasons for his expulsion, they state that he undermines the constitution of the party. Meanwhile, on the other side, he states that the president undermines the constitution of the party. So we are not sure. I am not sure personally if MADISHA is going to lead COPE to better days. And I don't see COPE coming back in 2024, by the way. They won't make it to parliament. The way things look, I mean, you can't be fighting in 2023, fighting like that. Fist fights, expelling each other. It's an embarrassment to the party. You can see that the party is not going anywhere. But even MADISHA, the way he leads, the way he speaks bad about his senior, doesn't display leadership. Because if he was smart, he should create channels, if there are no channels, to sit down with the president, to sit down with the top leadership of COPE. And I think the problematic one is Gauteng. To sit with those comrades and speak to them and advise them of his views and his position when it comes to leadership, so that we don't see these internal battles manifesting to be physical, where they fight in the presence of media. It's bad. They are the ones who tarnish their names. And if the people have lost hope in COPE, looking at the number of political parties, which are alternatives, by the way, that we have in South Africa, it will be difficult for COPE to squeeze itself again to come back and make an impact. They are complaining about funds. Where will they get the money? In return for what? Because we know that business people in South Africa, when they give you money, they want something in return. We've had a case where the president applied to seal the CR17 bank statements. Why did he do that? Because he was funded in 2017. His election campaign was funded. CR17. They say it is worth R1 billion of funds. But if those statements can be disclosed, if the public can have knowledge of the names of the people who funded President Cyril Ramaphosa to be where he is today, you will find out all the biggest contracts in South Africa are given to those people who appear there. So there is no way that a business person can fund COPE in return for nothing. Because there are many political parties which are very active. We have DA, we have the ANC itself, we have the EFF, which is growing very rapidly. So these are the top three that I believe business people have no doubt when it comes to funding them, because they have representations in government. They have people serving in various portfolios. They have people serving in these big metros. And these big metros, we know their budgets. It's billions of rands. We know the contracts of bridges and things like that. So that is how they get their money back. So a party like COPE, who's going to cash in at COPE? When the president and the deputy president are fighting publicly. If a person like WILLIE MADISHA is part of the leadership that has exhausted the funds of the party, because he was there when the party coffers of COPE ran out as part of that leadership. So it cannot be ignorant and let the president and the treasurer waste the funds of the party. What type of leadership is that? Is also questionable to him. How do you let people misuse funds in your presence and you say you want to use that against them in public? What type of leadership is that? Because you cannot wait for your own political party to die so that you can revive it and be its leader. That is not leadership, that is being greed. And you can't disrespect your president in public. That's my understanding. You can't. You have to find ways. Obvious, each and every political party has its own ways to discipline its members. That is how political parties cleanse themselves. But it's a problem because it means in these political parties, especially these opposition parties, it means that it is difficult for one to ascend to a higher position, especially the top 6, especially that one of presidents. I wonder what's going to happen the day someone want to contest the CIC in the AFF. I wonder what's going to happen that day. So when our leaders are leading, I don't think they check or they calculate all their moves. Sometimes they just become reckless and abuse their power. So with the issue of COPE dying, COPE fighting in public, fighting each other, fist fights, I wonder who protect women in that political party. I wonder who protect the youth. I'm not sure even if they have a youth league, some sort of a youth league structure. I'm not sure if they have some sort of a women's league structure. Because if men are fighting physically for power, they fail to put matters on the table and discuss. It goes to fist fights. It's bad. It's bad. So I hope to continuously speak to these matters and update people after checking the developments of such matters. Because we know that we are now entering the season of madness in the political arena. Because next year is the determination of bread to most of our politicians. Power, money. Because recently we don't get journalists asking relevant questions. Simple questions that should be asked to the ANC are, what references do you have that can convince people to vote for you again? But they keep asking them, what are you going to do for the people? You can't ask a party like ANC, what are they going to do for the people? They should give us reference of their good work so that people can be convinced that they've built these roads, they've created how many jobs, and what did they promise before? But they keep asking opposition parties. They will ask Malema, what have you done the previous 5 years? Why? Ask the ANC, the ruling party. Because what people like Malema are helping us to do is to help us hold those leaders of the ANC to account. So opposition parties are us. They represent us. They do what should be done by the ruling party. Because the ruling party should, at least for fairness, hold into account its leaders in government, in positions of leadership. But they are not doing that. They are behaving like puppies, waiting to be fed. So they can't bug at their mother at the top. They can't bug at their owner at the top. Where will they get milk? Where will they get food, leftovers? So we're compromised because of such a behavior of corruption that is instilled in us by the leadership of the ANC. The way the ANC has been conducting itself in its dying days. So another question is, are we ready to have more opposition parties in South Africa branching out of corruption? Because if the allegations that COPE have in MADISHA or against MADISHA, if these allegations are found to be correct and MADISHA want to lead COPE, what is it that they want to hide? Maybe they want to make it his turn to eat. So I hope to follow up on these developments and speak about these political matters and grow with them. I've been held, I wanted to say liable, but I've been corrected a lot on the Jimmy Manyi episode. But those are my views. People came with four-page paragraphs, wanted me to read those things. I read them. I even replied and asked the same question. Is the EFF the new home of the RET forces? Are we going to see Ace Makashule joining the EFF officially? Because he has a media briefing on Monday. Is the EFF the new home of the RET forces? The radical economic transformation movement of Zuma and Zuma supporters, who Malema, by the way, called them the most corrupt people. But today want to impose them on us. They want to impose them, they want to bring them in the political arena or environment through the back door of the EFF and say that there are no permanent enemies in politics. Well, I don't agree. Once you're corrupt, you're corrupt. Even if you are cleared, we know your behavior when you see money. You forget poor people. You compromise poor black people. And you do it for yourself. So such people shouldn't be afforded a chance because maybe they are your friends or you don't agree with the way they've been expelled, or that is the way you want to kill the ANC. But that's a topic for another day. Thanks for watching. This is Authentic Info Podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that we grow together. And please comment, comment. Let's talk about this matter. Correct me where I'm wrong. Refer me to documents that you think will build me. And criticize me constructively. So thank you for watching. This is Authentic Info Podcast. We're out.